Hi, good morning and welcome to this latest webinar on furlough and in particular the extended furlough scheme. So we had the government's announcement a week and a half or so ago and announcing that furlough would be extended as a result of the national lockdown. And last night we had the guidance for what the new furlough scheme would look like. And the good news is that it broadly looks like it did before. There are a few new elements that have come in, but broadly we knew about those already. The downside is that there are in fact 13 sets of guidance that everyone needs to get their teeth into. But I thought what I'd do this morning is just run through a quick high-level summary of what we now know and what we knew already and what's new. So let me get some slides up for you. So what do we know already? Well, we knew already that any employer can make use of the scheme, or at least any private sector employer. If you're receiving public funds, then you're expected to continue paying your staff as you normally would, but any other company can make use of the scheme. Any employee can be furloughed. Previously, you had to have been sort of in the period between June and the end of October. You must have also been furloughed in between March and June. That rule has now gone. So any employee and any number of employees can be furloughed as well. The previous cap has been removed. The employee must, though, have been on your payroll. So in that sense, on an RTI submission to the revenue between 20th of March and the 30th of October. Now, the employee can be fully furloughed, so for 100% of their time, particularly relevant if they're in one of the closed industries, so non-essential retail or hospitality or leisure. But they can also be flexi-furloughed, and they can move between the two. When they are furloughed, as previously, they can do no work. Okay, they're not allowed to do anything for you, and we have had some instances in the previous furlough scheme where employees have gone off on a tangent of their own, done some work without their employer even knowing, and that's caused some difficulties. So you need to make sure that the employees are clear that they can do no work and should not do so when they're on their furlough period. A written agreement must be in place. It appears like you need to have a new written agreement in place rather than relying on an old one. Now, the employees can be furloughed for any period of time. So our advice at the moment is that to get new agreements in place with all of the staff you intend to furlough or flexi furlough, and put that agreement in place through till the 31st of March, which is when the extended scheme is due to end. And that gives you that certainty that you've got that agreement in place. It gives the employees the certainty that if things are a little bit bumpy on the peaks, they will get to work and they'll get their full money, but things drop down in the troughs, they will still get at least their furlough money. And that should hopefully give them a bit of comfort through till the 31st of March. Anyone, as well as your current employees, you can recall any staff who have been made redundant since the 23rd of September, and you can place them on furlough. We're getting a lot of questions about whether that is a sensible thing to do. Well, ultimately, it is up to you. I'd suggest that any employee who you've decided, look, we really just don't need you anymore, you may choose not to have them back. There's only so much hokey cokeying in and out that you can do. Of course, once you've got them back, they're continuing to accrue holiday. You've got to pay them from that period where they were made redundant, so potentially from the 23rd of September to the 1st of November. It all gets a little bit messy. But if they're a good or were a good employee, they've got good skills, then maybe it's worth doing, but it's something to balance up. Employers can claim money from the 1st of November. The announcement obviously made at the end of October. The written agreement must, though, be in place no later than the 13th of November. If you put the agreement in place from the 14th of November onwards, you won't be able to claim for the period 1st of November to the 13th of November. So anyone in HR needs to get a wriggle on and get these flexi furlough or full furlough letters and agreements out this week. The employee can receive 80% of their salary, which is capped at £2,500. You can claim all of that money back from the revenue. The only element that you need to continue paying is the national insurance and the pension contributions. You can't claim that back. So in effect, we rolled the furlough scheme back to August this year, when that was in place, and claims from the period for the period from 1st of November can be submitted anytime from today. So that's all what we knew already. We were familiar with that. So what then is new? Well, there are three big core elements. Firstly, HMRC are going to be reviewing all the applications. Previously, you submitted your application, they sent you the money. There wasn't much interrogation went into it. In the anticipation that fewer employers are going to rely on the scheme this time, they are intending on reviewing more of these. They obviously won't be able to review everyone, but that could lead to some delays and potentially some rejections of applications as HMRC starts to tighten up on the furlough fraud that we've been seeing. The government is also going to review whether you can use the furlough scheme to pay notice pay. Now, up to now, you've been able, as long as you've been, the employers remained employed throughout their notice, you've been able to use the furlough scheme to fund or part fund that notice pay. Going forward from 1st of December, it looks like the government is going to try and bring that to an end. Quite how they're going to manage that and regulate that, I'm not so sure. And also it acts as sort of a perverse incentive actually to start serving notice on your staff now and get that ball rolling, which seems contrary to the purpose of the scheme really, but that's what they're talking about, and so you need to bear that in mind going forward. And actually that may well be particularly relevant to those you're thinking about calling back from who have already been made redundant and you've perhaps used the furlough scheme to pay their notice already. Are you really going to want to pay their full notice period going forward? Probably not. In addition, and we're not entirely sure why, but from December 2020, HMRC is intending on publishing a list of the employers who are still claiming furlough. Now, we're assuming that this is some sort of anti-fraud measure allowing employees to check up on their employers and, if you like, grass their employers up. We're not entirely sure why, but again, it would seem potentially to be a disincentive for employers to carry on using the scheme, and without providing an obvious benefit or reason for doing so. But that is what they're planning on doing. So those are the three main new areas that have come out of the guidance that we've seen yesterday. We did see constant changes to the guidance earlier on in the year, so there is every chance that there could be some new elements brought in or some elements taken out. But hopefully, having got to grips with it over the course of the last sort of 6 to 8 months, there won't be too many changes going forward through till the end of March. So broadly, as I say, the scheme is going to carry on as expected and as it has before. Hope you found that interesting and useful. But if you've got any questions or require any more information, you see my details on the screen there. Please do get in touch. Thank you.